Hi, welcome back to Holistic Moms. I'm your host, Shan. Today is part one of a very interesting, amazing conversation with Leah Blondin. Leah Blondin is a wife and mom to two, born-again believer and functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. Leah helps women optimize their health spiritually and scientifically by understanding specific data points of their blood work and functional labs in order to tailor to each woman's bio-individual needs in a subclinical way. She loves camping. Her and her husband own a campground in the Ozarks and is passionate about helping others level up their lives and health to live the life God has called them to live. Friends, I heard Leah on another podcast interview and was really blown away by the way she has used her story, what God has done in her life, to use it in her work for her purpose, her passion, what her mission. And so this first part of the conversation is just her testimony, but we can learn so much from someone's testimony. And then you'll have to come back for part two to hear what she's done. What has she done with the story God wrote inside of her? And I know you're going to relate to so many of the parts of her story, and you're going to say, oh my gosh, that's me too. And then you're going to want to come back for part two to hear how she's taking courage in her wellness and how you can too. Hey, mama friend, are you wanting to not miss a moment? Not take these precious lives you have been gifted to care for granted? To be the best mom, but it's led to feeling anxious, overwhelmed, and even burnt out on this whole mom thing. I found myself wearing an infant baby boy that I had prayed many hours for, stirring the pasta on the stove for my 2 and 4-year-olds with tears streaming down my face. Was I supposed to feel this way? Why did it all seem so overwhelming? Why did I just scream at my precious 2-year-old? Why do I feel like a terrible mom? I got to my breaking down point and I knew I was losing it. I could feel the anxiety building. Would I have a full-blown anxiety attack at any moment? I stole some precious moments with just me and God, and He gave me the answers. Simple answers that I could handle, and it brought so much peace. I want you to know that you don't have to keep going burnt out, stressed out, and hanging on by a thread because this is motherhood. Sis, there is time, energy, and peace for you. Even in the chaos, you can find peace. I invite you to sit with me for an hour so I can show you the solutions God gave me, so we can find that time, energy, peace, and presence you have been praying for. Go right now to www.theshanwright.com, THESHANWRIGHT.com, and let's calm the chaos together. Hey mama, are you stressed by the lack of time in the day to do all the things? Are you feeling disconnected from God, your husband, and even your kids because patience and presence seem out of reach? Do you want a healthier body, mind, spirit, and home, but overwhelmed in where to start? Hey, I'm Shan Wright, daughter of the King, wife, mom to 4, RN, wellness coach, and I know very well what it feels like to want to live well, but about to lose it with my very blessed full life. After realizing I can't pour from an empty cup, I tracked my way to whole body wellness and so much peace. If you are ready to cancel the stressed out life, learn tactical, intentional strategies as a mom wearing many hats, find more peace, confidence, and joy raising kingdom kids, then listen in. Come on, mama, together we got this. Really, God's got this. So go heat up that coffee again and turn your listening ears on. Let's chat. Without further ado, here is my conversation with Leah Blondin. Okay, I am so excited to welcome you all to this conversation that I am thrilled to have. So, Leah, thank you so much for being on Holistic Moms today.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yes. Okay. So I heard you on the Heaven and Healing podcast, and was blown away by your knowledge and just how you've intersected it with your faith and just what the story God's writing inside of you, and how you came from a new age experience. And then now you're looking at holistic health in God's way, and just how that experience has really shaped your knowledge and how you live it out. So there's so much I want to talk to you about, but one thing that I do know is testimonies are huge, and I love to bring on people and have them just share their testimony and how we can defeat the enemy by the word of our testimony, in that pursue our own peace and healing as it relates to our story. So as a listener, and I know you have quite the testimony when it comes to anxiety and depression, and we talk a lot about that here. So I would just love for you to share as much or as little as you want about your testimony and how it brought you to where you are today.
Sure. So to kind of back it way up, I started to experience like depression, anxiety around puberty, like around the age 13, where your hormones start to rise and fluctuate. And I didn't know what it was. I told my mom, like, hey, I feel sad for no reason. And she was pretty holistic at the time. And we tried essential oils, and we went to the health food store and got some like St. John's wort, and nothing really ever got to the root cause, because it was a hormonal issue and a micronutrient issue, come to find out. But so I've dealt with that for decades of time now, and just kind of lived with it. I had gone the medication route, on Lexapro, on the pharmaceuticals, the pharmacia, and just felt numb. I felt dead on that stuff, and just kind of kept living with it until I was living in San Diego and was finishing college for interior design. Actually, is what my degree is in. And I was living in a moldy apartment, and all of my depression, anxiety, all my stomach issues, everything got so much worse. And I pretty much like became brain dead. Like I could not physically use a computer anymore. I couldn't think anymore. And I ended up leaving school for a year to heal and get out of that environment, and was able to go back and finish college, which was great. But that was really like this catalyst that kind of woke me up. And my boyfriend at the time was like, hey, you need to try something a little deeper than the regular mainstream medical route, because that's what I had done. I'd go to Scripps Hospital. I'd been on all the meds. Nothing really worked. Again, nothing really got to the root cause. So I started exploring like the functional lab stuff, and ended up finding functional diagnostic nutrition, which is what I'm trained in now. So I can run lab work on people in a subclinical, like non-medical setting.
Okay.
And so I finished college and ended up saying like, hey, I don't want to work in the design field. I'm going to go work. I want to help people the way I have dove into my own health and gotten a little deeper to the root cause. I'd made some progress, but I wasn't like all the way better. Like I can say now I'm definitely all the way better. So there was really like this big switch in my career at like 22, 23 years old, where I was like, I'm not going to use my degree. Sorry, parents. Like I'm going to go this other route and get some more training and some more knowledge, which is definitely how God was totally leading. I got sick for that reason, so I could do this. Yeah. And I remember, when I had left school for that 1 year, I remember crying on the floor. I was on my knees. I had my Bible at the time, and I was just praying, like, why am I so sick? Why am I not feeling as better as I thought I should be at the time? And audibly, literally, it was audible, I heard God speak to me. Usually it's internal, like the Holy Spirit speaking through like your gut instincts and stuff, but it was audible. I was like, who's here? I was home alone. I was like, who's here? This is crazy. And God literally said, you're on the right track. You need to keep going. And I was just like, I stopped crying, and I was like, okay, like I'm going to have faith, and I'm going to trust that I am sick, and I quit school. I quit my dream job as a kitchen and bath designer so I could get better. And I was like, okay, like I'm going to keep going. And things really started to shift after that. And I ended up going back home to my hometown. So I moved back from San Diego to Boulder City, which is just outside of Las Vegas. And I opened up a yoga studio, which was really curious because I was really into my faith and God, and nobody in my life. I had just gotten baptized at a big mega church in Las Vegas, and literally nobody was like, hey, maybe you shouldn't open a yoga studio. Because I had done a yoga teacher training while I was in college in San Diego, because it's huge out there. And so I was just like blending these two worlds, and nobody was like shaking me to say, hey, wake up. Like, this is a pagan religion that you probably shouldn't be messing with. So I had to figure that out on my own very long term where, so I had that yoga studio for 4 years, and I literally had like a come to Jesus moment where I had those realizations of like, wow, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Maybe this is why I'm still experiencing anxiety and depression because, I mean, there's a whole saying of yoga girls are crazy. You know, I do yoga because I'm so unstable and so crazy and so anxious and so depressed. Like that was kind of my coping mechanism, which kind of worked, but ultimately it didn't. If anybody knew me at the time, they knew I was still really struggling, especially postpartum. I'd had a baby at that time, and everything just got worse during postpartum. So I like literally had a come to Jesus moment where I sold the business, and stopped doing yoga. And that's where I really started to dive deeper into the functional labs that I wasn't originally taught. We have access to, but I was like, okay, I got to go deeper on figuring out what is going on postpartum. And that's what ultimately led me to really figure out biochemically what was going on with my brain, what was going on with my organs, what was going on with my full body, physically, mentally, spiritually, in all those ways. Biochemistry has everything to do with what is going on spiritually and mentally in your head. And it was only after my 2 postpartums where everything kept getting worse and kept getting worse, and quitting the yoga and the, I don't know, like the fake ways of dealing with those things. Like breathing is a great tool. You know, we all have to breathe, but that's not going to fix your infections, and that's not going to fix overloads and deficiencies in your body and your cell membranes and all of that stuff. So it was just a coping mechanism. Same with the drugs, you know, the Lexapro and the anxiety meds. Those are not helping people to get better. They are masking the symptoms so they can deal with their life. So they don't have to be bedridden, depressed in bed all day, which is where I've been before. So that's where I really started to do more functional labs and have created the program that I do now with clients, where it's really like the full picture of everything going on in the body at one time, because that's what I had previously, and what a lot of practitioners do is they just pick and choose, like, oh, I'm going to do a hormone test, or oh, I'm going to do this gut test, or oh, I'm going to do a food sensitivity. And they just do one here, one there, one this next year, but no one's ever really putting it together. So it's just a lot of guessing and experimenting, and it didn't work. It wasn't working it was kind of working for my clients, and it was kind of working for me until I really put the spiritual aspects together and said, hey, like, this is pharmakia. This is what the Bible is saying. I probably shouldn't be on medication because they're mind altering substances, and the Bible says not to use those. So, and same with yoga. This is a pagan religion. This was something I was using to deal with the stuff, but it wasn't actually helping. It was making me crazier. If you go really into the research on transcendental meditation and these altered states of where your mind can go, I was literally like leaving my body in a yoga class, and I could watch myself do yoga. So I was like astral traveling and my spirit leaving my body, which allows different entities to come in. Same with the pharmakia. And so yeah, that was really like a big moment for me when I left all that behind, which was very challenging because I lost the majority of my friends. All hundreds of clients were just like, she's off the rocker. She's going crazy, quitting all this stuff that she's taught us for so long. And I had to really start over. which has totally given me my life back. I figured out exactly what was going on with the anxiety and depression and how that was correlated to my postpartum issues. And my husband says I went from like a level 9 of being depressed, can't get out of bed, I'm angry, I'm ragey, I literally didn't feel like I loved my family. There was no emotional connection. I was totally numb, not even on pharmaceutical drugs, just naturally I was totally numb to their love and that connection. And he said I went from like a level 9 to a level 2, like pretty much within a couple weeks time after really targeting the nutrients that I needed and kind of leaving all the other stuff that wasn't a problem that I thought was a problem, because we just guess and guess and guess. And so after that, I mean, that's been totally a game changer for me and allows me to, I'm so excited that I can talk to people and physically use my brain again, because literally it felt like I was brain dead. I had so much brain fog that I was just like, okay, how do I use a computer again? Like, how do you click? Like I was so slow and foggy, and all of that lifted and has totally changed our family. My children going to like a private Christian school and just seeing what can translate out of really dialing in your health. It's not just dialing in your health, but it's dialing in all the other aspects of your life, your finances and your relationships and your creativity and your ability for adventure. And all of those things are piggyback off of your health. Because if you don't have your health, you can't have a career, you can't talk to people because your brain is so in a fog all the time. And so that's kind of the journey it's been for the past 15 years or so to get to the place I am. And it took a long time. It does not have to take people this long. Once they have the physical data and they understand their biochemistry, there's just no more guessing. And it's very straightforward and usually can get you pretty quick results when you are very specific on what needs to happen.
Yeah. Wow. So again, so many things I want to talk about. But first thing I would say is what you just ended with is it doesn't have to take this long when, they know where they can go. But for you, God like wrote this story in your experience so that you could be so passionate and help someone. So the person's coming to you and they can get help pretty fast, but they're getting help from you who's lived it out, who's had this whole life change over years and years. So it's so inside of you, you know it through and through because it is your life. Obviously, Leah has taken courage in her holistic wellness in many ways. She says without the data from functional labs, she was confused, lost, blamed herself for being quote unquote messed up. Once she had clarity and answers as to why she was feeling so terrible and a path to move forward out of that, it was like the world opened up and for her and her family, and they understood that she wasn't just crazy, but that there were biochemical imbalances driving her depression, anxiety, and digestive problems. It gave her the energy and clarity to help women and others find the same answers and ultimately give them their lives back. Be sure to come back for part 2 to hear how she did all of this and the rest of this conversation. Hey, Wellness Warrior, I pray that blessed you. And if so, it would bless me big if you would write a 5-star review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. Not only would this make me super happy, but it will allow for others to find this show too. Also, I love to chat over on Instagram, so make sure to take a screenshot, share to your Instagram stories, and tag me at the Shan Wright, so I can see it and we can keep chatting and bring other moms to chat with us. Until we get to chat again, mama friend, may the Lord's face shine upon you and give you peace.